All right. Hello, everybody. My name is James Waugh. I'm here with Jessica Angel. We're going to do a little experiment in live broadcasting. We're going to create something and see what happens. But generally, I just would like to introduce Jessica as the founder of #Art Project in coordination with TrueBit, the sponsor of her installation up here in New York City, global traveling Klein bottle that should amaze many folks around the world. But she can do a better job explaining what they're up to.
All right. Well, hello, everyone. And thanks for having me here. This is a fun experiment. I'm happy to be the first person in your series of interviews.
Sure. Tell me more about your background and what you got you involved in the art project, the meta crypto space, and yeah, just more about you.
Yeah. So I'm a visual artist from Bogota, Colombia. I live in New York City, and I do installation pieces that are large scale. I take over walls and ceilings and floors, creating these sort of immersive environments. They're all made by hand, hand-cut adhesive vinyl, wallpapering, kind of using all these techniques that are very crafty, very to the hand and the body. So a lot of physical activity is required to make these large-scale pieces. So I want to share with you actually some images.
Great.
If I may. Let me share my screen real fast. Let's take a look at this. All right. I have a PDF. Do you see my screen? Share screen. You got it. Here it is. You should be seeing my screen now.
Cool. Yeah, I can see it.
Okay, beautiful. So let's see if I can just make this larger. So I started creating these immersive environments, these rooms, as kind of an attempt to merge the gap between what we believe to be digital art with physical art. So I'm interested in information as the core, as the base layer where knowledge is somehow built upon. Just the concept of a link, for example, I find when I read Borges, you read a paragraph by Borges, and that has like 10 links in it. You have to go read all these other people in order to understand that one paragraph. So just kind of making those relationships between what a link actually is not necessarily something that is related to the computer world. It's not something that necessarily lives in a computer, but it is more of a concept. It's a broader concept. The concept of virtual, for example, it is way broader than what we see or how we see the term used in the computer space, let's say. So that was my attempt to address these sort of differences that seem to be oppositions. They seem to be dichotomies, virtual and real, paper versus screen. But when we look at these things, we can see that they may be connected. So what you see here is an installation creating this sort of boom of information. I was inspired by the idea of the universe as this sort of a big bang and the information big bang, kind of comparing those things. I don't know. So I come from a drawing and painting background, and I'm trying to continue with that, but in different ways. So this is a painting, the Cooper Union, and it was a part of a residency program that it was a teaching residency. This was the first time I started working with, let's say, the community in a smaller scale, because it was a teaching residency. So I had a group of students. They were like my mentors, my mentees. I kind of brought my ideas and they helped me build this. And it was inspired by the building itself, that it's in New York City. So what I wanted to do here is play with the concept of architecture and somehow bring a little bit of a look that has to do with something techie. Using wallpapering here, for example, this is in a gallery space, creating these sort of landscapes, like imaginary landscapes where it feels almost like you're diving into this computer space. And again, I'm playing with dichotomies here. The reticle of pixels that almost speaks about what you see here, the squares, the two parallel lines that never meet from Euclid, and then juxtaposing a total curved non-Euclidean perspective on top of that. Wow. And again, a color against black and white. So in my mind, I always have these sort of dichotomies sort of interacting or fighting each other, and I reflect them. I don't expect people to think that when they see it, but now that I have the chance to explain it. And again, just continuing with taking even larger spaces. This is part of an exhibition called Digital Latin America in Albuquerque at 516 Arts, which is an organization that I've actually worked quite a lot with. And yep, they gave me their atrium, and this actually led me to other projects. And it was, again, playing around with this idea of making this immersion into this micro world of traveling through the superhighways of information. Like, what would you see there? Well, you wouldn't see anything but a point. It's almost like a one-dimensional perspective. If you were to get into a cable, one direction, you wouldn't even have to. But you know, I want to think a little farther than that and be like, okay, I get to imagine, I get to play around. And this background actually was inspired a little bit by the starting line of Neuromancer, the novel. It's kind of like a very common sort of cyborg novel. It's called Neuromancer, and the first line is so awesome. It says something like, "The sky above the port was the color of television turned into a dead channel." So that's what I was thinking about a little bit here. Yes, and other projects that came after or before around the same time, where I'm trying to play with the universe, sort of like the space, the fabric that is foldable, that two parallel lines actually do meet, and non-Euclidean perspective, a black hole, and trying to juxtapose this with little elements that make you think a little bit of computer integrated circuits. Like, how can we mix two things that are kind of non-related? A motherboard with a black hole. And I like to do those things. I like to bring things together that may seem or appear dissimilar. And that's where the book A Strange Loop plays an interesting role in this idea, which it's playing with analogies. Douglas Hofstadter talks about that. He talks about, I'm sorry, guys. He talks about kind of playing with sets of numbers or sets of ideas and analogies. He says, what is it? What he says? Analogy is a knowledge as an engine is to a car. You know that one?
No, I just know he talks about analogy as essentially thought.
Yeah, that's one that he put together. Analogy is to knowledge as an engine is to a car. So I love that. And I like to play around with analogies. And these are other pieces. I mean, I don't know how deep I can go into this. Can I talk more about the work?
Can you draw the line between a Euclidean and non-Euclidean perspective?
Draw the line between Euclidean and non-Euclidean.
Draw the line, you know, just...
Yes, I think the line between Euclidean and non-Euclidean is the human size, us. We are right in between. Non-Euclidean exists in a level that it has to either be way larger than we are or way smaller than we are. And Euclidean works only at the level of our exact size, where two parallel lines do feel parallel and they won't meet because we're not as large or as small to see that they do meet. Does that answer?
Whoa.
I believe that.
Those are such amazing, just immersive pieces. It's hard to even capture them with an image, the viewers, they're walking around, have trouble stepping.
Right.
Surely they might fall. But the one that you showed first with the light bulb and all were those numbers emanating from it? Yeah.
Yeah, these are actually characters. Yes, this is a number 8, number 5, the percentage symbol. Little computers. This is the font used in checks. I don't remember the name of that font. When you look for your account number on a check.
Yeah.
That's the font. Which was like, oh, what font can be very, futuristic looking, but not necessarily pixelated. So so my work has just taken into taking over space. This is the last project I did before the one that I'm doing that has to do with blockchain. This was my introduction, like previous to blockchain. Jason Teutsch, the founder of TrueBit, saw this work, and we engaged in really interesting conversations regarding mathematics and regarding science, technology, and art. And after he saw this work, he invited me to create the Deutsche Etherium Bridge art project. That's exactly what I'm working on, and the reason why I know you, and the reason why I ended up in this awesome, rich, phenomenal space called the blockchain space. And my attempt here was to distort reality and somehow bring people into this world where you can think micro, because it feels like almost you are a bit of information, but at the same time macro, because it's almost like you are in a space where Euclidean perspective does not exist anymore, because it's, you're close to the black hole. So Jason Teutsch saw this work, and he said, we are building a software bridge. And we were thinking if you would be interested in creating a hyper bridge, the software bridge that we're creating. And this is what I'm putting together in order to achieve that. And this is our bridge. This is the Deutsche Etherium Bridge in physical form. The original bridge is script, right? Mm-hmm. And so it's the connection between these two cryptocurrencies and almost the unification between them. This bridge doesn't necessarily enhance that duality or that separation, but it mostly brings the concept of these two ends to be brought into a unity. So when I was invited to do this, I was invited into TrueBit's Slack channel, and I just started bringing some ideas, and I opened a little channel called #ArtProject. That's kind of how it all started, because those channels start with a hashtag. Okay, this is an art project. It ended up being #ArtProject. And we had about 65 people from the TrueBit community into that Slack channel. And I just started bringing photographs and ideas and images and stuff that I liked related to bridges and hyper bridges. And this is the one that resonated the most with the community. That is why I say that this project is almost in collaboration with the TrueBit community, because these ideas somehow were developed in conjunction with them and with their feedback. So this is the one that resonated the most. It's a Mobius band. And I really like this mathematical shape because it's like a ring, but it has a half a twist. So it is pretty intriguing and a little weird. And it kind of talks about a fourth dimension too. But anyway, when you put two Mobius, like if you merge them together, you end up with an object called a Klein bottle. And I created a Klein bottle made out of 2 Mobius strips. So I have the 2 Mobius strips here on my structure, which is this one, the one that I just showed you, that it's made out of a yellow area, a yellow Mobius strip, which is representing Dogecoin, and a gray one, which is representing Ethereum. And then how do I connect these two? Here, take a look at the structure. I connect them with the windows. And those windows, they are not a Mobius band like the other parts. They are a ring that has 2 twists, but we won't talk about that. But in mathematics, it makes all sense. It's a mathematically and geometrically cohesive structure, the one that we put together here. So the windows are the same shape as if you take one Mobius band and cut it in the middle. If you guys have the opportunity to do this experiment, it's so fun. You just put together the band, you put a piece of tape, and then cut it in the middle. You are expecting to get 2 separate pieces, but no, you just get one longer strip, which is so weird and exciting. And then this one longer strip is exactly the same one that matches the side, the orientation and our windows in our structure. So this is the structure. It's 30 feet wide by 40 feet deep. It's 22 feet high. And, you know, the structure is going to be a room, like a little museum. And what is the community about? The art project community is sort of an experiment to gather people to start collaborating. Whether it is for the structure, ideally, that's one of the goals for the community, to give life to the structure and bring art inside and make experiments with art and blockchain that can take place inside of the space. So this is almost like a little museum for blockchain, a little traveling museum, because the structure can travel. And you can see the size. It's 565 feet square. It fits 45 people approximately. And there is a whole engineering process behind it. It's going to be made out of steel. Each one of these polygons is going to be a panel that is a separate piece that is going to be bolted together and put together like a giant puzzle. Yeah. Do you have questions for me? I'm sorry, I'm just going.
How many pieces is it total?
And there's like, you know, everything that this is new for me. I've never done such a project that had all this engineering behind it. It's really exciting. You have all these software programs to check the different loads, how the wind is going to hit it, if it snows, how much snow it can have. So that's all. These are all the things that I'm actually working on right now, getting a full report on all these different variables from nature on the structure, and then shipping this stuff. We ideally wanted to have some pieces, larger pieces welded, but how are we going to fit all that stuff? We can only use 2 shipping containers. So this is a no. We decided this doesn't work. So we have to divide each one of the panels has to be a separate piece. So it's almost like those puzzles that you buy for kids for engineering, where they can just like use bolts and create things. It's pretty much the same, but on a larger scale. We're working on the plan for how to ship it from the Northeast. This is going to be built and produced and fabricated in the Northeast, and it's going to travel to Vancouver. It's going to be displayed at the Vancouver Biennale for public art sculpture, public art. You know, this is the location. It's called the Hinge Park. It's a really beautiful location, and in different parks across this area, there are art pieces by really wonderful artists from all over the world. We have planned how to direct it so the sun hits it the best way, you know. There was an existing slab there from another artwork that was there. We're trying to use that to optimize our resources. It's going to have windows, you know, it's like all this crazy stuff happening. So that's where we are right now. And then I want to now tell you a little bit about the community. Should I jump on that, or do you want to ask me anything regarding
I just wanted to clarify, where is the structure going to be installed? Is it going to be installed in Vancouver or?
Yes, initially we had a plan to have it in New York City. How do I stop sharing for a little bit? Are you seeing my screen?
Yeah, I am. Now I can see. There you go.
Oh, okay, cool. Yeah. So we initially, ideally, wanted to have it in New York City, somewhere like Central Park, also because I live in New York. And I thought it would be easier, but regulations, all this sort of permits that we needed to do it here without having a partnering organization that was related to the art world here was like making it really almost impossible. Not impossible, but we needed a lot more time to figure those permits out, so we wouldn't be able to have the piece up but it's summer is the way we want it. So
great situation. That green space looked beautiful right on the water.
Yeah.
And part of a bigger, isn't there going to be a bunch of installations around it as well?
Yeah, there's a bunch of art around it. I think having it in Vancouver is better than having it in a meh space in New York City, you know? And then once it's up in Vancouver, I'm sure it may gain more traction and attention from the New York City art world, public art world, to be like, oh, maybe we should look at this. But if I just come with this like, hey, people, I have a project. Do you want to see it? They're going to be like, no, thanks. You know, that's kind of how it works. Because they don't know who I am. They haven't seen my
putting in a lot more work than that would, you know, imply.
Yes.
It's definitely coming together, and yeah, I agree. Vancouver is going to be a great place for it.
Yeah, definitely. And the Vancouver Biennale works with Emily Carr University, and the structure is actually really close. So we're working on putting together a public programming that has to do with education and incorporating the university and the students into learning a little bit about blockchain through art. So that's awesome.
Sweet. Yeah, definitely tell us more about the community. Us.
Yes. So so the structure, what you just saw on the slides, kind of works as, it's almost like the launching pad for this community. And this is how we've envisioned it from the very beginning of this project. It's like, oh yes, we have a bounty that we got from building the Doge Etherium bridge, but you know, what next? Like, why? What's the purpose of it? But we want to think a little bit ahead. And this is actually Robbie. He's the COO of TrueBit. This is like his vision. I wouldn't have come up with, oh, I want to make a community. It's actually his idea. He's like, think about a community. Like, we actually can use this project as an example of how the crypto space can support art, and think about it as just a first step or a first block into the creation of a larger community that can, you know, outlive this one project, right? So, so that was his vision. And I'm like, okay, I'll follow. That sounds awesome. And he's the one who suggested Telegram, for example. I didn't know that Telegram existed. It was like, open Telegram, blah, blah, blah. And then I'm like, okay, cool, let's do it. And I just started bringing people into the Telegram, going to crypto art meetings, trying to meet different people, get people in, get people engaged, and share the idea of the project, share the idea of the community, talk a little bit about, okay, if this was possible with the Doge Ethereum bridge, software bridge bounty, imagine the other possibilities. Like, what else can we do with some of these resources that this crypto space has? We need some sort of catalyzer, some sort of funnel that kind of gathers everything and thinks about, okay, let's bring the artists, let's make the connection. So actually the concept of the bridge plays really nicely into this idea of having art project, hashtag art project, as being also a bridge between artists, between coders, between programmers, between thinkers, people of all kinds, and using the community as that platform for these things to happen. So definitely, it's
yeah, and I think it's remarkably generous of Truebit to get this ball rolling, and I do believe it's going places for sure. The momentum behind the Telegram alone, it's a central focal point, I think, for the crypto art space. You see, every project is coming through, sharing their different projects that they're working on, and artists are sharing educational content, like Joe's hashing versus encryption.
Exactly. Yes.
But yeah, it's really cool to see everyone coming together and just creating the future. And gotta tip my hat to you as leading that effort.
Yeah.
I'd also like to say the Rare Digital Art Festival back in January was really a foundational, kind of legendary event, I think. It brought everyone together. That's when I first joined the Telegram. Seeing it there has been really cool.
Yes, that was actually my first contact to the crypto art community. I had been to other like summits, but not a lot of artists are there. And so it's good. It's good to see a special space exclusively or specifically for artists. It's a total different vibe, and it's beautiful. I love it. Mm-hmm.
Well, similar to that event, which was put on by the Rare Art Labs team, the ETH Denver Makerspace was, I think, legendary, and led that effort, and I think it continued the experiment, and now it's resulted in some very cool ideas that are being integrated into the physical structure that you're creating, right?
Mm-hmm. Yes, definitely. I would like to share a little bit about that and share how that is connected to this public art structure. Is that good?
Yeah, definitely.
So I may share some images again, if that's cool. Let me go back to sharing my screen. Be patient with me. Here I am. All right, here we go. So yes. So we were thinking, okay, we need a space, like some sort of lab. We were calling it a make-a-thon space. We're thinking we must have some sort of hackathon for artists to connect with hackers. And we were just like going back and forth until ETH Denver came up and said, well, we can actually let you use the top floor of the building, and you can do your Makeathon there. But then for some reason, the name changed. It became the Makerspace. It was easier to remember. And they gave us this kind of old looking, kind of run down room. And some people were like, are you kidding me? Do you really think we can do something here? I'm like, yeah, let's try it. It's better because then we can do anything on it. We don't have to be careful with it. So during the course of 36 hours, which was the time of the hackathon, we took over the space. We invited through the Telegram channel, through the people that we met back and forth in different events, put together an open call and gather ours to come to the Makerspace at ETH Denver. We provided a set of basic things. We brought Lindy Wilkins, who is here. She worked with Truebit creating the Mary Merkel, which was a really beautiful project that brought together a convent house in Toronto for a charity event. She is a like an engineer, tech artist who uses Arduinos, and she uses Raspberry Pis in order to connect data to lights and sounds. And she uses sensors and all these different tech equipment to create manifestations that are physical, like lights and sound, that come from code. So she connected this tree, this Christmas tree, to donations to the Ethereum blockchain. So when people made donations, they would it would light the tree, which was a really beautiful thing. And what I think was best is just a concept, like calling it the Merry Merkle was awesome. So once they did that, we're like, okay, it's possible, we can do it. We have Lindy, she's the person who has the know-how on connecting all this stuff together. And we have the programmers, we have the TrueBit core developers who can just run the scripts. And then I am there to provide aesthetical quality. So we started creating, we didn't really know what we were doing when we came, okay, let's build something. And people just started showing up. Some people came from New York just for the Makerspace. Some people were already at ETH Denver. They didn't know the Makerspace was going to be there. And then they ended up being important players that are actually now going to be with us at ETH. They really didn't expect to find this, and they just joined. So yeah, what you see here in these photographs is we put together a little program for talks and workshops and teaching people how to use these tools, and just talking to everyone and just gathering ideas, gathering concepts, gathering opinions, and together we put it together. It's, if that doesn't sound redundant, but yes.
Mm-hmm. Gotta come together to put it together.
Together we put it together. Yeah, so you can see images of the different people that showed up. We invited Brady McKenna, who's also with District OX. He loves music. He has different projects that have to do with blockchain and art, and we met him through the Telegram, and he came. This is Ivan. I don't know how to pronounce his name, my last name. Ivan, Ocean, Adam. They are from Status. So we also have a very strong collaboration with Status for the participation, the layers inside the installation. So yeah, this was our first community collaborative effort, and it was incredibly successful, which led us to think, okay, we need to make another one. We need to go back to continue testing our ideas, continue testing our prototypes that we built, and refine them. So I applied to the Ethereal Arts Grant with the Makerspace to create a Makerspace 2.0 to continue with what we developed and to perhaps bring new people in. So we will be there at Ethereal with the Makerspace as well.
Cool. What day is Ethereal again? Just so everyone.
So yeah, Ethereal today is May 3rd, 2018. And that's taking place May 11th and 12th. So that's about 10 days from today, or a week. And yeah, we're getting prepared for it. And then we're going to continue developing there's two main interactions that are already pretty strong. One of them is we're calling it proof of work, or the mining block. It still doesn't have a fixed name, but what it is a block that is connected to the blockchain. There's a script connected to it. There is lights connected to the block, and those lights are connected to a piece that sensors vibration. So when you hit the block, the sensor will pick up on the vibration, and that vibration is going to, I don't know how, that we can talk to Matt Condon about that, how the script is picking up on this information. We're building actually a private blockchain for these blocks to be created on a blockchain too.
Right.
So this is how it works.
To illustrate the mining.
Exactly. So the idea is to have.
Mm-hmm. It's pretty cool to see. I remember the exhilaration on people's faces when the lights went off and they mined their block.
Yes, exactly. So you mine a block, meaning like it couldn't get more literal than that. It was just like bang, 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 and it just hit. Every time you hit it, the light changes color. So it's like a pulsating effect until it's just like explodes. Somebody was saying like it's kind of like orgasmic or something.
I don't know about that, but it was definitely fun. Matt did some great work on that. The work it took to make that happen, it was kind of like a moment during the hackathon. I think everyone downstairs was having similar moments where they didn't know if their products were going to come together, but everything lit up on the last day.
It was really cool, but we only did one. So then how are you going to, it makes no sense. You need to compete to actually,
Well, I would say Brady was just amazing. His performances were, I think, some people would wander upstairs and kind of follow the music and walk in and just get blown away.
That was really nice.
A lot of emotion into it. And yeah, everyone there was super open-minded and collaborative. Lots of good questions and discussions.
Actually, that idea of the mining block and the idea of reverting the dynamics, because we're thinking about, yes, I can send a transaction, I can send a message through the dApp, and I can see it, I can see the lights sort of show a path, or but the idea of reverting the dynamics, how about whatever I do here has an effect on the blockchain, kind of reverting the other way. And that happened because of the people who were around. We're like, how about? And then we're like, yeah, how about? And we did it.
Yeah. So what do you think is going to be different about the Makerspace at Ethereum? Is it going to be next phase in the experimentation, or?
Yes, definitely. Yeah, it's the next phase. We will be working harder on the second, the Whisper mailbox, which is a dApp by Status. And this is actually a Status bounty. Status is sponsoring that. And that is in collaboration with the Status programmers team and Ocean. She's the engineer behind it. And their idea is to create a funnel, like almost like a microphone that is kind of funky. And then you send a message, and that message is perceived by the blockchain, by the dApp that runs on the Ethereum blockchain. And that information is going to transcribe into light. It's going to kind of travel through a pathway, and then it's going to be transcribed into sound. So it has like different stages from your sound to the dApp, to the lights, back to sound. And then that's going to be the focus to refine that one. And we also have an open call, so we're still receiving applications for artists and people interested in playing around with art and blockchain and learning how to do these things. So we don't know what will happen. It's pretty much going to be the same. I don't know what's going to happen, but I'm sure it's going to be pretty awesome.
Yeah, I'd make that bet that it's going to be super awesome. But maybe you could talk a little bit more philosophy before we.
Awesome, bring it on.
Like to share, because I'm curious about the motivation behind a Klein model. Because the Doge ETH bridge is a great representation of what TrueBit is doing to provide scalability to various blockchain solutions. But I'm curious, where does the multidimensionality come into play?
Well, I think that comes primarily from my own research. I want to bring into the project something that is exciting for me. So, and even from the initial proposal, they said, how would you propose a hyper bridge? That was their actual request. A hyper bridge. I'm like, you're talking to the right person. But I see it from different perspectives, actually, and philosophically speaking, from the concept of information, from the concept of the virtual world, the concept of building in layers and multidimensionality. I mean, what does that mean? Multiple dimensions. It's not necessarily something that is geometrical. The tesseract and the hypercube, not necessarily. Multidimensional has many meanings if you expand a little more. So let's say this conversation that we're having, this is a dimension that is taking place in different ways. It's taking place in the computer. That's one dimension, we could say. It's taking place in our brains. It's taking place through a medium, which is air, and also through the medium of the, bits of information that are taking place inside. And there's like all these layers of different dimensionalities, like even the temperature right now in this room and the one on your room and your background or where you come from. So I see multidimensionality to be the totality of all the elements around that make a reality. So if we think about the Klein, the multiple dimensions, well, the Klein bottle, it is an example of kind of like a doorway for people to perhaps understand the fourth dimension in geometry. But I don't know, I think of the blockchain space, for example. And one of the reasons and my goals with this Klein bottle is to somehow manifest the space of the blockchain. Like, and I was asking people when I first started the project, how can you perceive space in the blockchain? Like, what is that space? So people are like, there's no space. It's just a one-dimensional. It's just a ledger. It's a receipt. Bang, 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 bang. Like, how can you find a dimension there? Some people are like, no, it's boring. You don't want it. But I think it's not that boring. You can think about nodes. You can think about users as dimensions. You can think about the internet of blockchains as a different dimension, actually. Projects like TrueBit connecting different blockchains. That's almost like from a larger scale. There's other projects that are working with connecting, branching out. And you can find that as almost as comparisons to, a cosmic, I continue making those comparisons, cosmic connections from entities that are different, almost like galaxies. Like there's a cosmic web connecting galaxies, and each galaxy is a unity. Each one is different, but they're actually somehow connected. So what I'm trying to do with that Klein bottle is just to play around with the concept of space and try to bring that space from the blockchain into a tangible space. Like I think about the space, 1 terabyte of space in your computer. What is that space? Do you think it is a space?
No, I don't think it's space. It's information, right? So it's almost more fundamental. But yeah, I think what I resonated with at first with the Klein bottle idea was the fact there's no inside or outside. You kind of you get back to the origin when you try to walk through. But yeah, and that comes back to the loops, the strange loops. So it seems all very connected, and yeah, I'm excited to see it in real life.
Yeah, definitely.
Emphasis on the public nature of it too. It's very inviting. It's like the goal is really to build a community around the structure, really utilize it for good causes and art, creativity.
Yeah, I'm happy you bring that up because I had it in my mind in the conversations with Jason, for example. He's saying yes, his initial idea is that it was public art because he sees it as almost like public blockchains. And the idea of building a community over it, it's almost like you can build on top of a blockchain, and it somehow legitimizes itself, or let's say normalizes, or because there's stuff built up on it. And then we want to think of this bridge also as that platform where you can build on top. And that's why we want to integrate other people. We want to integrate artists to take over it and build on it. So yeah, so there are certainly parallels. It's a public art piece. We want to talk about that it's a public, definitely a public blockchain. That's, yeah.
Well, you said something, I think it was at the Raw House event last night, about the paradox verifying or validating reality. And that struck me, because I never thought about that as sort of a, the causal potency of the paradox as an idea, being what makes it real and validates it. That's even more powerful. So I just wanted to hear your kind of
one more time,
because I'm thinking about that a lot.
Well, I mean, I told you it's an idea that I'm still working on, so I don't think I can support it entirely. Like, I really need to read more about, because when you think about a paradox, it's like a mathematical problem, let's say, a mathematical construction. And certainly mathematics don't match up always. So, I mean, a paradox can be many things, but so the idea of the paradox is what I'm trying to put together is that when I see, and this just only comes from experience, this construction of ideas, that when you have a paradox, when you have a situation that can have opposite places, but still both be real and still both be almost true, or you say this thing on one end, it makes all the sense of the world, but it just happens to be that the opposite does too. It's like, what the hell, That's what I mean when I talk about paradoxes. But when I find those paradoxes, and when I say that when there is a paradox, that is the proof phenomena to be validated, meaning that it is actually real. It's like almost that spark, like, yes, I'm here. This is reality. And that's why when I talk about the truth, and we came to this idea, this conversation, because you were talking about the absolute truth, that you're saying that you believe that there's an absolute truth, and I say that I don't, and I'm saying that's okay, right? That because there is an absolute truth from one perspective, but there is not one from the other. So the fact that there is an absolute truth and that there is not an absolute truth, it's somehow a paradox. And the fact that there's that paradox makes the concept of truth multidimensional. There you go. If it's not multidimensional, it's just not happening. But I don't know, something like that. It's not even the two opposites, like dualistic thing, that it is or it is not. Actually, the paradox has this other dimensions, other layers, where there's these other possibilities for it to not agree with itself. I don't know. No, I got to work on it. But
that makes sense to me. I think it's definitely changing how I think about my perspective on the absolute truth. But I do believe the shifting back and forth from the multiverse to the set of universes, and that in parallel with kind of the understanding of symbols and the lower level, nuts and bolts of machinery that make up our conscious lives. There's similarities there. There's a lot to ponder. But yeah, I appreciate you sharing your perspective on that. And the paradox is real. I like
that. Yes, that's a work in progress. I hope I can do something with that. It's a cool idea. Yeah, definitely.
Well, unless there's anything else you'd like to share, or any questions you have for me, I guess we can wrap it up. I feel like this was a good first attempt, a nice way to start the experiment. But we'll see if more people want to participate and share their perspectives on the crypto ethos and general creativity.
Definitely. There's something I'd like to add to close this conversation is to thinking about this multiple dimensions and paradoxes. This space that we're proposing here is this merging point between all sorts of ideas that may not match up. It's like, I don't believe what you believe, right? And then the other person feels the same. Then if that's happening, yes, it's an affirmation. We got to bring it into the project. So yeah, I just want to invite people from all realms of thought, from ideals, belief systems, different platforms, different kinds of projects that deal with different realms and knowledge, from philosophy, from art, from music, from dance, from theater, from finance and mathematics and anything, to actually come to the space, to think about, for example, in the Makerspace. That's the idea, to bring people from all over the place, just to get together, to think about how each one of us is a node in a bigger picture of human knowledge. And then what is human knowledge? Is that multi-dimensional, almost alive, sapient creature. And we are just little parts of it. We are nodes in this system. And that's our place in the convergence between many other points. So let's bring all those nodes together and let's just celebrate the differences. And let's celebrate that we all have a different place and that we are all pillars that hold the structure together from different points.
Well said. That's a good note to end on. But I guess I'll throw in the promo for an event we're putting together in June after the May stuff, because there's so much happening in the blockchain world during May. But we'll have a fun sort of brainstorming pitch session for projects that want to get involved with Jessica's and TrueBit's art project. So stay tuned for that and definitely get involved with our project before then as well. So many different ways you can best communicate, I think, using that Telegram. So if anyone watching hasn't joined the Telegram, you should definitely join. And it's #OurProjectDecentralized. Lots of cool folks on there. So
well, thank you for having me here.
With that, I guess we'll wrap it up. But until next time.
All right. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.